Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. It is episode 884, and today is July 18th, 2024. I am James Jones, and I'm joined today by John Lindeman.
It's great to be here, James.
Is that a question?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll just see how Discord actually handles this. I don't trust any of my equipment right now.
I don't trust any software from the last 15 years.
No.
Also joined by Mr. Guillaume Vayette.
Yeah, hello. Also, Luddite. Yeah, Luddite.
Things are going great here, by the way. This is a good start to an episode. Greg Leahy, give us regularity.
Ahoy, hoy, everyone.
Normalcy restored.
Good.
We are using a different application to record the episode today. You don't care. We shouldn't care. But Skype had an update. Why do we still use Skype? I don't know. Have it. Why do we still do any of the stuff we're doing? Have it. But this update is one of the bad ones. And there are bad ones. This is one of them. But we're on Discord today, and I assume that's going to go well. I believe that's going to go well. So we're just going to assume and believe and hope. And on that, we're going to go ahead and kick the show off with the positive, glowing hope that is new business. And Guillaume, I believe you have stuff you want to talk about because you asked about new business.
Yeah, sure. I thought for a second there that I was going to be the positive, glowing hope, but yeah, I should have known better. Yeah.
Join us with our most positive and glowing Guillaume Vayette.
Excellent. So I have been playing PowerSlave Exhumed, which is, I've talked about it, how long ago was it now?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? 3?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. So I'm further in. I'm still not done with it. It is an interesting game that I think, like, if you are nostalgic for Doom-likes, this is definitely a game for you. If you want to see kind of a proto Metroid Prime, maybe you won't find it here. As I've explained 2 weeks ago, this game is divided in levels. You go across them. You revisit old levels when you need to. You gain some power-ups in those levels, and then that allows you to revisit past levels and go down, paths that you couldn't reach before. And in turn, you find new exits that that open up new levels that you haven't been to before. So, it's got a kind of exploratory structure to it, but limited and with very discrete levels. I guess that the power-ups, the said power-ups are a little bit disappointing to me because most of them just have this one function, and it's basically you can't go in the water at first. Well, eventually you get a mask that allows you to breathe underwater for a while. So you still die, you still get the very frustrating and stressful countdown for how much air you still have, and eventually when that runs out, you die very, very quickly. But it lets you go down those caves underwater that you couldn't explore before. Another power up is there's lava a little bit everywhere. Well, this will make you able to not immediately die when you touch lava. So again, you'll still take some damage when you touch lava, but you'll be able to go across this big lava hall or whatever it is that stands between you and the next secret exit or the power-up that you were looking for or whatever it is. And then there's the same thing with a poison. So you've got something that lets you withstand poison areas, which are exactly like lava, except that the glowy stuff is green instead of red. So, yeah, stuff that's not too exciting. The first power-up was more promising. It was a bigger jump. So, immediately you've got more mobility. It can be at least a little bit useful in combat because you can jump over the enemies. That's always fun. But that's basically it. The other mobility upgrade that I got is like if at the apex of my jump, I press jump again and I hold it down, it slows down my fall. So it's a, kind of a glide button. And in this game, if you fall from too high, you take fall damage. So this is a way to avoid that. And also it's a way to cross, wider chasms than before. And that's basically it. So yeah, it's a little bit disappointing. But the overall still, like, the game is fun in the way that a Doom game is fun because, as I said 2 weeks ago, like you run very fast, like the enemies are not too smart. They just they're there for you to shoot at them, and when they shoot at you, you can see the fireballs coming, so you can dodge them by strafing. It's not a more modern shooter where you should take cover or anything like that. Although, you can, but it's not really that kind of game. The best way sometimes to avoid a fireball is just to step out of the way and to fire back at the monster that shot it at you. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, it's been pretty fun, but taken really as an old Doom clone and less as an really, really interesting, like, historical curiosity, or as I said, like a proto Metroid Prime game. So yeah, that's basically what I've been playing this week. I'm wondering, James, I sent you, as I was editing last week, I sent you a message. I said maybe there's this game that would be of interest to you. Have you played this game?
I have not had time to play that game.
Okay, so maybe I can make the pitch for it here then.
Okay.
So I've been playing The Case of the Golden Idol.
Yes.
And this is a game that one of our listeners has been working on.
Oh.
Yeah, a current listener, because I saw that NBZ, or Lord NBZ, left a comment on our forums on NintendoWorldReport.com, so like, he's a real one. But he left a comment, just on an episode 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Forums?
So, yeah, I know.
What are those?
Go on the NintendoWorldReport.com to find out.
Oh, no.
But yeah, he apparently, asked him what his role on the game was, and yeah, he works for the publisher. Yeah, he found basically the game, and he was instrumental in convincing his company to sign them up, and then worked on the Steam page and stuff like that. This is a game that came out first on PC and Switch, and recently came out on Game Pass on Xbox. So I've been playing it there. This is a game where you have basically each level is basically a vignette, a tableau that you look at. It's slightly animated. You see a scene that's basically frozen in time. So the very first scene, the kind of the tutorial level, you see 2 explorers, one of whom is busy falling down a cliff, and the other one is busy pushing him off the cliff. So you need to figure out what's happening here. They seem to be in a jungle or an island in the middle of nowhere. You can see there's water in the background. There's a different island in the background. And you see that there are clickable spots on this this picture, this tableau. And so you click on various spots with they're all very, it's not a pixel hunt. Everything is very obvious with a exclamation mark where you need to look for stuff, or a question mark, rather, and then it turns into an exclamation mark when you've thoroughly found everything that the game wanted you to find. And so when you click on the question mark, it zooms you in onto something that you need to see, like a clue, maybe the shape of the you can see the boots of the characters, or the shape of their prints in the mud, or you see their inventory currently. They might have a letter on them that basically tells them stuff about themselves, including their names, because you don't know anything when you're thrown into these levels at first. You need to figure everything out. And then basically, once you've clicked on everything, you've found all the clues, you have to fill in the blanks, and I mean that literally. So the main goal in each level is you've got basically this partially filled out text, like, page where there are blanks, and you need to fill in the blanks. Like, you have to tell basically, like, if it says if there are two blank spaces, and then it says like has pushed and like two other blank spaces and then off the cliff, that you're supposed to be able to tell the game, well, the guy who's doing the pushing is named this. The guy who is being pushed off the cliff is named this. And then, like, depending on the other clues, like, it asks you more details. It asks you to figure out, like, what exactly is happening, what happened before, or, like, why is this happening? And, so it's a fun game. Like, it's interesting because it's kind of like, sometimes, the Ace Attorney games can be a little bit annoying because there's so much talking, there's so much dialogue. You have to click through so much text to get the story and to get at the puzzle pieces that you'll have to figure out later what to do with them. In this game, like, it's much more like you have to figure stuff out on your own. There's ultimately like very little dialogue. Like, you don't see like a continuous dialogue between two people, right? You're going to click on one person and you'll see that if they're saying something, you're going to see what they're saying. If you see, but sometimes they're not saying anything. And, like sometimes in what they are saying, there will be the words that are the clues that you need. And, when that happens, like the word is underlined, you click on it, it's added to your inventory basically of words that you have that you'll then be able to plug into the blank page where that you need to fill out to complete the level. So it's fun. It's set in the like 18th century, like somewhere in the UK, I assume. I'm not sure. I haven't really paid attention too closely to exactly where this was happening. But like it seems to be telling the story of this this explorer who ends up finding the titular golden idol, and this golden idol has some sort of like magical power. And you soon realize that there's this whole secret society of the occult, and that so basically, like, you see a whole series of murders as the idol changes hands, or as it's being used to by unscrupulous people to further their own ends. And right now, I just finished, what I think is the next to last level, and the story has gone into an interesting place that I didn't really see coming. But it's really interesting. The game is fun to look at also because, as I said, like, it's slightly animated. Like, you see the person in midair just, never falling, but ultimately, if someone were to unpause the action, that's what would be happening, right? Like in the next level, like you have to figure out like the next murder, and someone just like spontaneously combusted, basically. So you've got like this flaming figure in the middle of the screen, and you've got people around it just screaming in panic, wondering what the hell is happening. So yeah, it's a nice little kind of like morbid little story. And the game does eventually kind of change up the stuff that it asks you to figure out. For a lot of the game, like, you will have to painstakingly figure out every person's name, and so you've got the main page that you can fill out that is ultimately the goal of the game, but you've got other things, like other pages that can give you some context, or that can help you put your thoughts together, basically, that you can fill up, but those are optional, but they're very helpful ultimately to understand what is going on. And so, like in the first the first part of the game, like you will have, every time that you see someone new, you will have to assign them a name and figure it out. And if you get the whole page right, like it tells you, all right, you got it. If there are mistakes, it will tell you there are mistakes, like you need to do better. And eventually, like if you only have 1 or 2 mistakes, it tells you that. So that helps you figure out, like, okay, I'm close, but there's one thing that I didn't figure out exactly. So, like the game is helpful that way. Like you're not, like if you end up putting the wrong thing in the wrong place, like you're not just wondering, like, what the hell am I doing now? Like you don't have to turn to an FAQ immediately, a walkthrough, because the game does give you, hints in that way. Like it tells you when you got something wrong or when you're close to having everything right. And also the game has an actual hint system that I haven't used because I think that it does count against you if you use it. Usually when I complete a level, it calls out, okay, the hint system was not used. And so I can, I guess, pat myself on the back for that. And also I get a nice achievement for it, I suppose. And yeah, like it keeps things interesting in that, like, like there's a nice gradual difficulty curve. And initially, like, it will be, like, okay, like this person has a letter on them and it has their first name on it, but it doesn't, say their last name. So you're going to find their last name some other place. And then, like, it's very easy. Okay, so this person's first name and last name are this and this. But then later on, like, there was a really interesting level where it wasn't so obvious because you had a very large cast. It was like basically like this occult ceremony, and people were wearing masks and robes, and you couldn't really tell. Like you could basically, like, you could click on them and you could see, like, maybe if they had something on their person that told you who they were. But ultimately, there were characters from the previous levels that kind of integrated this society, or like they conned their way into that, or like basically at the beginning of the level, you saw that there was a person that was tied up and left, like in their underwear outside. And they had a tattoo. And so, like, okay, that's interesting. So they infiltrated basically this occult gathering. And once I had the task of filling up, like, the names for everyone, I had some names, but also I had some titles, basically. And through looking at the clues, I could figure out that the robes meant something. Like, it meant that the person was like a novice, kind of a, what's the other word? Anyway, like a regular member, or a master, basically, like a leader. And the masks could put them in 3 different groups, like beast masters, water snakes, and some other thing. So based on the way that the people, and like I could see in the level, again, like there was a description of the ceremony that they were doing, this occult ceremony. And so I had to figure out, like, from the pages that I found around, which ceremony they were currently performing. And that allowed me to also tell, basically, like, okay, like, who is who. And then once I had to fill up the page for what was happening, I could tell, like, I could fill up not just the names, but, like, people's ranks and the subgroup that they were part of. But when I did that, when I just filled up, like, okay, this person has, like, the water snake mask and has the master robe, and I would fill that up in the page. Once I filled up the entire page, it told me, like, you got it wrong. And I was like, what the hell? I'm pretty sure I don't. That's what these robes mean. That's what these masks mean. I got it right. What are you doing, game? And then eventually I realized, like, oh yeah, like, there was that guy tied up outside. He had his rank, but that means that whoever has those robes that he was meant to have is an imposter, and probably someone I know. So I figured then, like, okay, the game wants me to to say like who is behind the mask basically, and to plug in their real names. And so I realized like, okay, I have a little bit more figuring out to do. And so I did, and then I cleared the level, and it was very satisfying. So yeah, it's cool. Like all the, like it tells a continuous story, but again, like you have to fill up a lot of blanks in your own head. Like the game doesn't really. There are a few cutscenes here and there, but like you can see like the story of this idol over the years, like passing from through different hands and just being used for different evil purposes. And yeah, like I'm having a lot of fun with the game. The Game Pass version has some issues. This game was originally on PC, and so the controls are kind of finicky and don't quite work all the time. So the game has, like these blank cells, and you can just like move, in theory, you can move from one to the next very easily just using the D-pad. But that doesn't always work, and I don't know why. Like it will like make you think that the cursor, that one of the cells is active, and that the thing that the word that you're gonna click on is gonna populate that cell that is, in theory, highlighted, but it is not. And instead you will overwrite the cell that you wrote in previously, and you have no idea why. Like there are these shortcuts basically on the controller that are meant to make this thing less of a pain in the ass, but they're unreliable. And so what you end up doing is you use the stick most of the time to move a mouse pointer around. And it's basically like the only reliable way you have to control this game. And it's a little bit annoying because, you're moving a very kind of slow-moving mouse pointer around on a screen with the stick, and it can get a little bit tedious. I don't know if the Switch version has this problem, but I saw online someone that gave me a little bit of concern. And it was like people complaining that the Switch version of the Case of the Golden Idol didn't save on Switch. And that this was a known issue. The game, there's no manual saving, like it auto saves. And the game apparently, like there is like an icon that shows like auto saving or saving. Like so the game tells you, hey, I'm saving here. But then, like, you exit and then you go back into it, and it hasn't saved. So that seems like a problem.
Yeah, that seems like it's unreleasable.
I don't know, and yeah, like, so maybe I should look that up now. But like, it seemed, I think it was like a recent message, and it hadn't been solved. It was a quote-unquote known issue. So I don't know what that means. Apparently, it doesn't mean that you have to play from the beginning to the end of the whole game in one sitting, because there is a way, like there is a shortcut. You can hold down like one of the shoulder buttons and press Y or minus or something, and that lets you just like go to the level that you want. But that seems like it's a cheat that shouldn't be used as a crutch to avoid patching this problem.
To avoid the fact the game doesn't work.
Yeah. So there's that to take into account. So I'm guessing that maybe the PC version of this game is like that was like the main thing that it was made for, and that's probably the best way to play it. But the Game Pass version, not too bad. It's just that the stuff that's meant to make your life a little bit easier with a gamepad doesn't always work. And on the Switch, who knows what's going on with that. So that's unfortunate.
Neat. So do your research before you decide to buy.
Yeah, please look up. Hopefully, I'm not just talking about something that's been solved already, but I'm pretty sure that the message I saw was very recent, and I was shocked by that.
Yeah, that would be bad. That would be very bad.
Yeah, but the game itself, outside of this minor little technical issue, is very good. So who knows if things are good or bad.
So I start search case for the Golden Idol, Case of the Golden Idol Switch, and the first recommended statement is bug.
Oh, okay.
So that's not a great sign.
All right.
So I see somebody talking about it in February, but I don't, and January, but I don't know if it's still a thing. Cool.
Well, I'm seeing like a Reddit comment from 4 months ago that says that the game will not save progress on Switch, that it's a known bug that's been there since Switch release, and the game didn't release 4 months ago. It released over a year ago.
Yeah, you would think they would have fixed it by now if they intended to.
Yeah. So what the hell, NBZ? What's going on here?
Yeah, come on. Get on your game here.
So somebody apparently posted, the developer, I guess, posted in their Discord that the patch is still not, this is 5 months ago, still not out. Some kind of deployment hell related to the fact the patch deployment goes through our publisher, and from them through a porting partner, and then to Nintendo and back.
Oh, okay. So the porting.
Cool.
Yeah, okay.
Cool.
So it's not necessarily NBZ's fault.
No.
Although
yeah, but
I will
he's
directly accuse him.
Yeah, look, exactly. We'll hold him responsible. We'll name him as the corporate stooge that's responsible for this.
So please direct your hate mail.
Yeah, we'll get a forwarding email address for sure.
Yeah.
It seems like it's not consistent. Like it's happened to some people and not others. Yeah, it sucks. That sucks.
If I were to want to play more of this, I had considered getting it on Switch to be able to play it portably. I guess I will wait for the patch. But there are, like, I'm almost done with it, but there are, like, 2 more, basically, story packs that you can buy as DLC.
There's DLC, and then I think there's another game. Like The
really?
Rise of the Golden Idol or something like that.
Jesus. Okay. Well, it's a fun game, so I'm happy that there's more of it.
So then if you buy the second game, do you have to play, because of the bug, do you have to play both of them back to back and beat them both at the same time? Or else you just can't beat either one
I
of them?
hope so. I hope you have to just play all the games in a row without stopping.
Exactly. It's daring. It's a daring strategy, but I like it.
Imagine if you had to play the Mario and Mario the Lost Levels at the same time.
Yep.
All the way through.
Your game won't save. I mean, that was pretty much the experience on NES. I mean, really. Who are we kidding?
Twice. You had to play it twice. Yep.
That's it for me this week.
It also lists Netflix as a publisher. Is this game on Netflix?
Oh, I guess it must be.
Okay. Neat. I guess. Huh.
I guess,
Weird.
Yeah. Like, in theory, I guess this would work better on Switch than on Xbox because of the touchscreen. Like, I could see this game work well on touchscreen, but yeah, the whole can't save thing is preventing me from wholeheartedly recommending that version.
Mm-hmm.
It's a problem.
Yep.
The sequel is not out yet. It will take place in the 1970s.
Groovy.
Yeah. It looks like Netflix is responsible for the mobile ports.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. All right. New business continues. Greg, what do you got?
Well, I made a good go of Mameda and Bakeru finally, kind of following on a little bit from the Going On talk that we had last week, but I'm not quite finished with at least like running through to the end of the levels yet. I mean, it's very much like a lot of good feels, side-scrolling platformers. There's, kind of a number of extra collectibles in each stage. So I don't know about 100%ing it or anything, but I'd definitely like to kind of see the very end of the, kind of just the standard run to the kind of final boss before, commented in full. And that should be by next week. So I'll save most of it for then. But for now, it's been, pretty kind of fit the bill for something that's, kind of, engaging enough, but also very, very easygoing, as you might expect from Good Feel. Most of their kind of stuff has been that way. I guess you could have wondered, when they're not doing it at the sort of behest of Nintendo, filling out, games, in the properties with Kirby, Yoshi, and Princess Peach now, like, you know, like maybe that Nintendo is very keen for those games to be, you know, approachable and, you know, kind of easygoing, but very much true with this one as well. So, yeah, not too challenging, but, you know, still kind of varied and, you know, kind of pleasant enough that I've kept going with it, and we'll kind of wrap up with that probably next week. In the meantime, we did have
first. I just want to say probably their most challenging game was probably with Nintendo, Fling Smash. Unfortunately, probably not for the reasons that we would hope.
Was that good, Phil? I thought.
Oh no, maybe it was Artoon.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that was Artoon/RZest. They both worked on Yoshi games, multiple Yoshi games each. So I can understand the conflation, but it is.
I apologize to Good Feel. I did not want to. Okay, I had the wrong.
How could you forget Artoon's seminal Fling Smash?
That was the problem. He didn't.
Yeah. I wish.
No, so yeah, like I said, it's pretty. Obviously, it's different, you know, because it's more 3-dimensional. This, you know, much more of a 3D platformer. But I mean, Yoshi's Crafted World is kind of, you know, more of a legitimately kind of 2.5D kind of Yoshi. You know, but most of the stuff they've done for Nintendo has been side-scrolling, and yeah, Princess Peach is obviously very strange. You know, Showtime or whatever, Princess Peach Showtime. That's, you know, kind of. I haven't played the full game, just the demo, and obviously that's, you know, all different modes, and you know, there's probably, you know, which, you know, there's some overlap with Mameda and Bakeru there, because, you know, this has got like, you know, racing bits and, like little, you know, rail shooter levels, and, you know, kind of these boss fights that are, you know, kind of standing in for the Impact boss fights from a number of Goemon games, which are, you know, those were often some of my highlights of sometimes various things about the games would change. Like, you know, it could be a side scroller, it could be a top down thing, but the impact fights would be relatively constant. Like that would be the thing that was the way you're in the cockpit, and it's a bit like Punch Out, but you're sort of more unwieldy because you're meant to be controlling this giant mech instead. But here it is some of that. It's a little bit like Punch Out, but you're controlling in this because, again, you know, Konami presumably turned them down, and it's not allowed to actually be going on. So you kind of hover around the overworld in a giant tea kettle, which, for the boss fights, transforms into a tea kettle mech. And I guess it's probably somewhere between like an Impact boss fight and maybe those kaiju boss fights in Bayonetta 3, perhaps. You know, it's somewhere between the kind of bigger, slower, but more still kind of a bit character action-y compared to those old Impact fights. But anyway, yes, I was going to say, I did want to touch on the kind of surprise edition of the Starfy games on the Game Boy Advance expansion pack.
Yeah,
that was really quite a surprise, because on the one hand, I wouldn't say it's a huge shock that they'd go there, from the point of view that I've played the third of those GBA games before. Just did that one of the import shops that I've used over the years. They had a essentially new condition copy for not very much money, and I'd always heard about them. I thought, I'll try that, you know, and played it. And yet there's quite a lot of Japanese text, because there's quite a lot of like characters just chatting or something. I don't know. I can't imagine it's desperately important stuff, you know, because you can get through the game without comprehension, as far as I recall from my experience of that third game, and then just playing a bit of the first one on NSO after they went live. But you know, I guess I'm just trying to give the game personality and stuff, like with characters and whatnot. Like it does have quite a bit of text, but you can play through them. So I guess, you know, it was always an option, but it just seems like, I guess the biggest surprise of it is you might have thought that would be something that would come later, you know, when it's like, okay, we've run through the obvious ones now. Let's do, you know, some imports Because there's been a bit of that with some of the other, NSOs we've talked with, kind of the NES one, right? Like, Devil World's come along eventually, and obviously the Atlantis No Nazo just in the last NES update and so forth. You might have thought it would have been a later one when there's still so many, like, very prominent GBA games that aren't there yet, but I still think it's kind of cool that they've put them all there. Like Tosei, who developed it, it's a kind of rare case where they actually get to kind of have their own character. It's like their series, and they did a lot of them, because I think not only were there those 3, but there were also 2 on DS, one of which was localized as the legendary Starfy. But, right. And then also around that time, they did the Super Princess Peach, which, is I played that, and that's, fairly similar in a lot of ways. It's kind of pretty solid platform, but it get very easy going, nice sprite work, but obviously not like anything radical from a design point of view or terribly challenging. So this is just what they were doing at that time, is just a pretty steady production line of these kinds of platformers. So you're probably not something that's going to set the world on fire, but, probably in a similar sort of, you can hit the spot in a similar way, that Mameda and Bakeru has been doing, in the 3D platforming space. But it also, you have to say, opens the door to like, okay, what other like GBA imports could we see at some point? What would be interesting there? And I think the original Rhythm Heaven is something to consider, because again, there's a lot of text in that, but it doesn't really matter. I played that game to exhaustion with no Japanese comprehension whatsoever, and found it to be extremely enjoyable and made me a fan of the series for, from that point onwards, when I got that imported in 2006. But around a similar time, you also had the Bit Generations games, which it could be interesting because some of those have come back in other forms, but some of them didn't. And of course, none of those original releases for the GBA were ever actually localized. That was just in that period of time we've talked about a number of times over the years, where it's like, okay, NOA has cut the GBA off. It's done with it. We're not interested in it anymore. Meanwhile, in Japan, they were still kind of content to do things like Mother 3 and, Rhythm Heaven and Bit Generations and so forth. So yeah, those are, some of the ones, but I guess there's probably others, that could be considered, because there's already on the Japanese NSO app for GBA, they do already have like one of the Fire Emblem games that came before. Yeah, the one that was released simply as Fire Emblem, the first one that was localized, I believe, is on there. And of course, Mother 3 is on there. But that surely is not something that you would ever just say, hey, there it is with Japanese text. Just deal with it. Like, they've done that for a bunch of games, but not something where the script is as critical to progress and everything else like that. But no, it's I think it's pretty cool. That's the first kind of time that they've actually put in the Western version of the GBA apps. Some games that weren't released in the West originally, maybe a little bit sooner than expected. And I guess for me, probably the one I'm looking out for potentially the most would be that last F-Zero game, because that is one of the few F-Zero games I've not played. And presumably, I would have thought overall there might be some stuff, but I would have thought that is something that would be within the bounds of like, yeah, you can make this work without language comprehension.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine the greats, even though that one is technically based on the anime, right?
Well, I forget now, because obviously there was the preceding one that obviously it was after Maximum Velocity. That was based on the anime, and that did come to the West.
Oh, okay, all right.
But I don't know if
that was GP Climax, I think, wasn't it? Was it GP Climax?
I think it was. There's Legend, GP Legend, right? That might be the middle one, and now obviously that one has yet to emerge on NSO, so that would kind of be the next logical step. After Maximum Velocity came a few months ago, would be to put that one next. But then perhaps after that, you could
F-Zero Climax is the one.
It's just Climax was the Japan only one. I think same developer as GP Legend,
Suzak.
Yeah. So who went on to make Wario Master of Disguise, I believe, which was not terribly well received, as I recall.
Nope.
No.
But I never did get around to playing that as a result of its very lukewarm reception. But yeah, that would be definitely one of the ones that I'd be very interested to see.
Yeah, as for Starfy, I checked it out and I noped out pretty quickly, but I had played the legendary Starfy on DS and I liked it enough but didn't love it. So it was kind of easy to put down a GBA title that was like the first one of these, and also I can't really understand the dialogue, and also there's a lot of it, and also like it kind of throws you pretty quickly into an area where there are like 4 or 5 different doors that you can enter, and each of them seem to lead to kind of a sub part of the level, and I was like, I don't really want to take the time to figure this out. Whatever this game is asking of me, so I just I don't know. I guess I'm glad that Starfy is there on the NSO for in theory for people who want it, but I'm not gonna play it.
Sure, yeah. Like I said, very much like inessential type of thing, especially if you have played one of the games in the series to sort of satisfy your curiosity before. But it's funny actually. Tosei were in the headlines quite recently, weren't they? About I think they had to report that they were going to make like a very rare financial loss, but I think, speculation anyway, I think behind it was that, they'd had contracts essentially kind of pulled out from under them because, perhaps mostly because Square is doing that big kind of restructuring where they're cancelling a lot of things. So yeah, basically a fair amount of income that they were expecting to receive in that reporting period, they were not going to anymore. So, that's the thing. Tosei have been kind of, ticking along as the sort of called ninja developer back in the Famicom days. And then, into the 21st century with stuff like Starfy and Princess Peach, but even, to support studio stuff today. And, have generally been doing quite well, I think, kind of financially over that time. But just, I guess, the current tumult with the industry has even reached Tosei, who've usually been pretty safe from it.
Yeah, I mean, they have partners they work with, and they keep the budget down. It's productive for them, I suppose. I assume they'll be fine if it's just, hey, we actually had a loss this time, because they seem like most of the times we mention companies like this, it's like, oh, by the way, they're gone. Example, Suzak. Suzak no longer exists.
That was 20 years
where did
ago,
they
though.
make again?
That was 20 years ago, man.
What? Suzak went under?
Well, I don't know when they went under, but I mean,
2012.
that last F-Zero game was in 2004, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah, it makes me sad. I don't want to think about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was when you had the real glut of the, they just kept coming, you know what I mean? You had 3 on GBA from 01 to 04, and then also, of course, GX came out in that span, and while you had the anime and all that, it was kind of similar to Metroid Prime, wasn't it? You just had this burst of stuff, and little did you know, that was going to be it for a good long while.
Yeah.
Lord.
I just want to update. So I did check further that Reddit thread about the problems with the case of the Golden Idol on Switch, and some people, as recently as 5 days ago, are complaining that not only like they got the bug and suddenly, eventually the game stopped saving, and when it stops saving, by the way, it seems to just throw you back. Like you have to start from the prologue all over again. Like it deletes your save. So not only that, but they had bought and paid for the DLC, and they cannot access it.
That's
really
fucked.
bad. That's really bad.
Yeah. So, and like, there's a message here, like supposedly, the developer saying like, feel free to not purchase it on Switch. The bug appears for a small percentage of people, but it's still happening, and we cannot ensure a smooth experience for you. So they kind of basically throw their hands in the air.
That is crazy.
I mean, that tells you that basically, like, it's the porting studio, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate. Thankfully, you might already be able to play this game on a different platform that works, because if you've got a Netflix subscription. So
yeah,
I would recommend you do that. It's just really, really sad for the Switch version.
Yeah,
I wish I could recommend it.
So I guess
it really is.
So I guess what, they're probably not really getting a whole lot of money coming in from that game. So therefore, there's no way that they could pay somebody to fix that bug, and that whatever company ported it is probably out of the picture. And that's about it.
Yep, they got their money and ran.
Yep. And they probably have, in order to, fix that bug, they would probably have to re-engage with that company, sign a new contract, do all that jazz, and that's it. That's not going to happen.
Womp womp.
Womp womp. That sucks.
Well, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Well, that's a bummer to end this segment on. Greg, do you have anything else to talk about, please?
No, not really. Well, the last thing I did finally get around, one of those cases where a sale reminded me that this stuff existed. I think for the first time there was a sale on the kind of latter DLC packs for Theathrythm Final Bar line on Switch. So this is kind of the stuff that's got like Xenogears and Chrono stuff and more Mana stuff, and I think Octopath and Bravely Default and all that. So it's like, oh yeah, I remember now. They did.
That's a great game.
I mean, there's just a ridiculous amount of stuff in that game to start with. But then it's like, oh yeah, they did this DLC and now it's like cheaper and stuff. So yeah, I got in on that pretty fast, and obviously some of it's been DLC in previous Theathrythm games, but quite a lot of it's new to Theathrythm, and it's just nice to have because you're talking about real classic stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I got the deluxe version or whatever that had all that stuff like in there as downloadable as they released it. So yeah, that game's really sweet. It's great.
All right. Well, I might take a look at that because I like these games mechanically. I just never bought one.
Mm-hmm. They're fun. I mean, they're very simple mechanically, unless you make them incredibly complicated and incredibly difficult. But really, it is more about unlocking all of the different musical tracks for all the different series, because they're all in there.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. That's the appeal is the music, and they know it.
Yeah, they jam pack it too. It's not like there's big gaps or something. I mean, everything is in there. So. And there's just a ton of fan service in those games. It's really well done.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I think we'll take a break. And when we come back, we will, we've got something. That's my promise to you. So stay tuned for that. We are back with not listener mail. We're not doing listener mail this week. Well, you're probably wondering, well, why aren't they doing listener mail this week? What dumb idea has possessed listener mail? And I have to tell you, you're not ready. You think you're ready. But what we have is a review of Nintendo investor relations. We're going to have some business conversation. John, I know you love talking business.
Yeah, I'm all about business.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Nintendo business because, of course, they've released their most recent quarterly numbers. And actually, no, we're going to talk about Nintendo Investor Q&A! If you've never read the Nintendo Investor Q&A, so what it is after every financial reporting quarter, they host an event in Japan where they allow institutional investors to attend. I don't know if it's in person or if it's electronic. Like my company, it's not in person, but I know some companies still do it in person. And investors get to ask questions of the executives. And most places make some effort to screen the questions. I will tell you right now, Nintendo makes no effort to screen the questions. How do I know this? because we've had some very bad ones in the past. And by in the past, I mean every single fucking quarter that they've ever done this, there has always been questions that absolutely befuddle in their stupidity. The all-time winner will always be the guy that asked if he would get free tickets to the Nintendo theme park when it opened.
The comps, yeah. That's when you talked about this concept, I set about trying to come up with 3 sort of tiers of investor questions. And the bottom tier I have dubbed in my own mind the comp tier in honor of this, like of just like the most
Craven is Craven.
Yes,
Craven the words you're looking for.
I think that's very accurate. But like I said, just in the spirit of the exercise, is like, in what sense is this productive for any of the other people in the room to hear it? You know?
But also, he asked this like 4 years before it was going to open.
I think he wanted points for prescience, and it's like, you're not going to get them for that. I'm not on this.
If I ask now, I can ask again for the next 12 quarters until the place opens. But this last quarter, there were a lot of people basically going, the yen's not doing very well. And Nintendo going, yeah, we're aware.
Funnily enough, we do have a monitor on that sort of fundamental thing. And yet also, what do you want us to do about it? You know what I mean? It's like...
but one of the actual more amusing ones was, somebody asked, hey, people are voicing... an ephemeral people are voicing the opinion that there is a lack of new IP. What are your thoughts on developing new IP? And Shinya Takahashi responding simply, yes, new IP is good. Which I really wish he had just stared at him and gone, fuck new IP. Next question. But the one that really jumped out at me, the one that actually blew my hair back to the point where I had to message Seren and just send her the question because it was so fucking ridiculous, was, let me go find the exact wording. That's what's Nintendo gonna do to stop scalping, which feels like an impossible task. Where is it?
Scalping for what? For the theme parks?
Their next console.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's something they've dealt with in the past, isn't it? With Wii, like they've so many Wiis were sold above market price. But
yeah,
that's quite a bullish question, isn't it? Really.
And also just one that's kind of irrelevant. I mean, yeah, it's like
again, there's only so much you can do as the company involved.
And it's not even Nintendo, technically Nintendo's responsibility to stop that from happening.
Oh, here we go. Nintendo owns a lot of compelling IP, such as Mario and The Legend of Zelda. But there are cases where other companies are offering products and services that appear to infringe on those IP rights. I am concerned about possible erosion of the value of Nintendo's IP. What are your thoughts on how to respond to acts that infringe on Nintendo's intellectual property rights? This dude's like, hey, have you been to Etsy? Fuck Etsy.
I don't know. If I had to guess, I would have thought this was the Pal World question.
Oh, it might be. It might be, but it's such a wrong because it's Pokemon. But it's if that's what they're going, it's so swirling around.
I do wonder with a question like that as well. I mean, these things when they get the transcription and it's translated into another language, how much maybe they make it more generic in the transcript than what, they might actually, the actual question might be more pointed, more specific of it
might just be fuck Power World.
Yeah, and then it's okay, let's come up with a version that's more, kind of acceptably vague, shall we say. So yeah, I do wonder about things like that. Maybe sometimes that process makes our investor friends sound more silly than they actually are. Other times, perhaps, it might actually spare their blushes. We can't rule that out.
So basically, Furukawa's response is, we believe it's important to create new ways to interact with our IP. We're going to continue to be protective of our IP. Nothing answer. And that's the thing with the investor QA. There's like this competitive battle between investors to ask stupid questions and Nintendo executives to say fucking nothing.
Yeah, that really
just
is
nothing.
That really is it, isn't it? It's just like the tightrope they're trying to walk is to not seem excessively you're sort of dismissive or, kind of patronizing in their non-response, and yet to still give a non-response. That's really, what they're trying to do. Because again, it's like, well, these are your investors. You have obligations to them, but equally, you have whole strategies dedicated to, when you're going to reveal things to the public, how you're going to reveal things to the public, that it cannot be allowed to mess with. So, it's, you'd prefer they didn't make your job harder in that regard, wouldn't you?
There was a question where a seemingly well-informed investor said, hey, for the anniversary of the Famicom, you have this website. They didn't have an English language equivalent, but in Japan they had these really nice games or websites for Famicom games to celebrate the anniversary. Really high resolution scans of artwork and background information on these games. It's a really nice website. And also it said, you're about to release Nintendo World Championship Edition. What else are you considering to celebrate the Famicom anniversary? And Furukawa, apparently not listening, responds, well, we launched a website, and we've got this game coming out called Nintendo World Championship Edition. And the Nintendo translators left him fucking restating the question in as an answer. And like, yeah, that's fine. We can leave it.
Yeah, I don't know. They're just
so weird.
Kind of ships passing in the night nature of that interaction. I don't know whether anything about how it's transcribed and translated could contribute to that, or it really was that awkward, like just sort of blanking. But it's funny because, of course, the Famicom anniversary it would have been last year. It's 23 for 83. Whereas, I guess, when we come to the NES anniversary in 25, you could have another question. Do you do some more stuff at that time as well? But, it's just like, well, we're making this game that you just mentioned. It's a bit, but equally, it's a little bit strange to be asking about that in, now that it is, a year later. I spoke before about they had these sort of like YouTube series, on the NCL, kind of channel, with like some people in what was meant to be, kind of a set like made up to be like an old game shop with all the Famicom stuff behind them, and so they're playing Famicom games and stuff. And it was, they kind of, stopped doing that. They wound it down this year, it is a year later. So I don't know, maybe that was the original part of the question. It's like, it seems like you've, kind of brought this stuff to an end. Is that accurate? Is there anything more?
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe it just comes across as this very strange, just like, are these people actually in the same room? Maybe it is virtual, and that's some of the problem, is they're literally not, communicating properly.
So weird. The follow-on to the question about Nintendo IP, somebody goes, I understand that Nintendo sees itself as a company that, quote, aims to, quote, put smiles on the faces of everyone it touches. Unfortunately, dun dun dun, I sometimes come across cases on social media where Nintendo IP and games are used inappropriately. I feel this kind of behavior poses the risk of damaging the value of Nintendo IP, so I'd like to know how you handle such cases. And Furukawa, not wanting to talk about porn created of Nintendo characters, responds, our company aims to achieve our management policy to bring smiles through entertainment by posing unique games that anyone can intuitively enjoy. Which, not answering the question. I will refrain from commenting on individual cases, but we believe appropriate action must be taken against any behavior that undermines our policy.
So we had the Pal World question. Now we've got the Bowsette question.
Yes, it's just like, and here's the thing. There are only.
What you don't know,
questions.
again, is that version of the events was heavily glossed over. There was a guy holding a printout of, a drawing of Bowser being all sort of a seductive girl at this point or whatever, just pointing at it going, are you okay with this shit? 'Cause I'm not. You know?
It's such a... It's like, this dude is probably responsible for an investment portfolio that contains tens of millions of dollars worth of investments, and he gets to talk to Nintendo executives, one of 18 questions that gets asked total, and is like, I need to talk about fucking porn of Zelda right now. This is the most important thing I can do with the time I have in front of me. And so my position is, one, the non-answers are obscene. Like, they're not even good non-answers. Like, they don't deflect well. They just sort of
Or like the sort of pivot, you know what I mean? Where it's like you pivot off it, you give a little bit of a response and then pivot off it as quickly as possible. Like, you know, it's very much like it could almost be just like a you know, like when you have like dialogue options in a game, like you've just hit on a dialogue option that doesn't have anything to do with a particular question, and it's just playing again. Like,
so one of the things I've noticed is that Furukawa loves to use that "bring joy to consumers" phrase, even when it's barely like the most marginally relevant.
And what brings more joy to customers than porn?
Consumers, please. They're never customers.
Sorry.
So music, apparently, because somebody asked, I believe good game music is a catalyst for getting people to play games. Recently, there's been more souvenir soundtracks released. Are you considering utilizing Nintendo's assets, for example, via a subscription system? He wants Nintendo to have their own music subscription service. This is gonna go great. Furukawa's response, many people have an attachment to game music. It's like, okay, it's great to hear. I feel that people love games for a variety of different perspectives. I believe game music is extremely valuable to expanding the number of people who have access to Nintendo IP, and would like to consider using it in, say it with me, ways that bring joy to consumers.
Total non-answer.
Yeah. So dude's like, yeah, music's good. I agree. Next question. We can do better than that, too. We can come up with better answers and better questions. These are questions that Nintendo, like, there's a lot of times where they're talking and you're just like, if I was in the position to ask questions, I would have 30 questions that are better than this. And, you know, like, one guy here asked why it took 11 years to make, the first new 2D Mario game, as if the team making that game had been in the studio for 11 fucking years making that game. And Tezuka quickly notes that is not accurate. That we were not working on that game the entire time. It's like, we actually made a bunch of games in that time frame. There were a bunch of Super Mario Maker games and some 3D Mario games. It's like, brother, it did not take us 11 years to make Super Mario Brothers Wonder. So we're going to do better right now. That's right, because we're going to take turns asking questions as investors, and the rest of us are going to try to be Nintendo's execs and deflect the question away to the best of our ability. And John, I know you said you wanted to figure this out as you went.
Yeah. I mean,
do you think you have a question for us?
I do. I have a couple queued up right here.
All right, just go with the first one you got.
Sure. As a child in Yokohama, I was enamored with Donkey Kong Jr. math. Are there any plans to revisit this IP and teach the children? Arigato gozaimasu.
Oh, Jesus Christ. The accent is dark. We also believe in the importance of math. I think consumers really appreciate math in their day-to-day life. And we are always considering plans that may include the use of math. It's my only answer I've got for you, John. I'm sorry. I was not prepared for anything you just unleashed. Does anyone else want to take a stab at that, or are we all just backing away slowly?
Yeah, I think it was basically, it's just like pretty much we also recognise the concept of mathematics. That would probably be it. I think.
I just like the idea that Tezuka would be like, yes, I remember when we made that game, and we'll just start talking about it. But no, he never gets to talk.
There's also a slight twist in there in that I'm subtly implying that because you're not revisiting this IP, you are not teaching the children.
Well, I mean, they're not.
Yeah.
I think that's implicit.
Yeah. So
the children don't enjoy math in 2024. It's a very unfortunate. You can't bring smiles to consumers' faces.
That's right.
Math. We consider it our mission to bring smiles to consumers' faces, and our testing has shown math does not do that. Which I think is fair. I think that's a fair response. Guillaume, do you want to take a stab at asserting dominance on the topic of Donkey Kong Jr. math?
No, I can't think. I don't know. Like, I can only think of non-Nintendo answers. Like, well, we don't want young consumers to know math actually, because then they know that we're fleecing them. Except that Nintendo's not really fleecing anyone, so it doesn't really work.
It's fine. All right. I'm going with brevity is the soul of wit on this one, because a lot of the investor questions will go for like 4 paragraphs, and you're just saying like, get to the fucking point. I don't like video games. Why have sales of Mario Kart 8 dropped off from their peak? This is actually very close to a real question that happened. There was a question like a year ago that started with, I don't like video games.
You do run the gamut on that sort of thing. Was there somebody that just like somehow like, you know, moved heaven and earth to be able to be in the position to just ask her, like, couldn't you just make an F-Zero game, please? Because they liked F-Zero so much. Like, so yeah, you get a real spread of like people who seem to actively dislike the concept of video games other than as a vector to make money from investments. And then you get your people who are F-Zero fans that, you know, have been waiting 2 decades and would like to live to see another one.
I believe the question that started with, I don't like video games, basically continued to the point of, I don't understand why we make them. It's like, brother, why are you an investor?
It's a really, really interesting investment to be in.
Yeah, I mean, my response to that would be something like, well, first off, thank you for your question. We view Mario Kart 8 as an evergreen franchise that continues to put smiles on the faces of gamers everywhere.
Not enough gamers. I need more sales.
We look to extend the life cycle of Mario Kart 8 with DLC, which we have been doing, and we will continue to do into the future until we decide to release a new chapter in that game series.
I think sometimes you just got to take your medicine, haven't you? You got to say, you know what, you got us. Yeah, we did want it enough. You know what I mean? You know, we haven't sold as many as we should have done. You nailed us. You know, we'll have to just go back to the drawing board and figure out some other way of driving sales of this thing, because it's unacceptable. Absolutely.
It's absolutely fire everyone. Mario Kart 8 sales have dropped. This is actually a combination of 2 basic questions. Because there was the guy who started this question with, I don't like video games. But there was another person who asked about Animal Crossing, why Animal Crossing sales had fallen off. And I believe we talked about that at the time, and the answer was they ran out of people to sell it to. But Mario Kart 8 felt even more galling version of that question.
No, of course, like Nintendo, I don't know, like I guess since they don't screen these questions, they wouldn't be ready with a chart. But if they were, I think that they should just get that Polygon pie chart about the Mario Kart 8 sales from 2016.
I love depicting totals in a pie chart of different things. It's great. It's a good use of stats.
So to explain a little bit, there's a pie chart that the website Polygon made to explain, like to support their argument in their article about how why Mario Kart 8 could possibly be the worst-selling game in the franchise's history. Of course, this was when it was on the Wii U, and only on the Wii U. They didn't know about the Switch yet. They didn't know about Mario Kart Deluxe. But there was like this pie chart that was infamous because it was basically like a big blue pie chart with a tiny, bread slice. So the big blue part was hardware sales since the SNES. 489.83 million. And the little part of the pie chart, Mario Kart series sales, 99.76 million. And you look at it and you're like, what are they trying to highlight? and there's no way to figure it out because it's just...
Because it's wrong.
That's not how pie charts work.
Well, also, if he was trying to sort of do some sort of like about the attach rate, I mean, the attach rate of Mario Kart 8 on Wii U was insanely high. It was. Because obviously there were so few Wii U's out there, it was just like amazing, like the percentage of Wii U owners that actually had that game. Obviously, it's still kind of amazing even on Switch, but there are just so many more Switches out there that I can't imagine it's as high.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I were Nintendo, I would just like show this pie chart with updated numbers and not really say anything about it.
No, you just look at the chart. Nothing further needs to be said.
We believe this speaks for itself, and then you just let the investor's head explode.
There's another chart that doesn't get as much of attention, which was this chart that showed, essentially it showed sales of hardware per system graphed against the number of copies of Mario Kart that were sold on that system, which is marginally better. Essentially, it's just two line graphs. And then they projected the Wii U, and they projected Mario Kart 8 on Wii U would sell 1.26 million units.
It sold significantly more than that, didn't it?
By a factor of 5.
Okay.
So this was a really dumb article, and it was really bad, and everyone who is responsible for it still gets memed for it, and they deserve it. Like, they should be memed on it till they die, basically. Because it's like 5th grade math that they failed, and it's the thing is, this is one of those things where their editor should have caught it, somebody else on the site should have caught it, people it should have been caught, and it was just not caught, and it didn't come down until they got memed to take it down. So that was the part that I think is actually worse. They took it down after people made fun of them. They removed the pie chart. And no, you don't get to do that. You put out something that stupid, you have to live. The person who made that chart should have to get it tattooed on their right cheek. By law. Possibly, or face prison time.
Okay.
Yeah, on their face, not on their ass.
Yeah.
We
saw that Deadpool Xbox controller. And anyway.
Yeah. It sold 8.46 million units.
Yeah, on a console that had what, like 14 worldwide. There's 40 million. 14 million Wii U's, I think, so worldwide. I mean, that's so to get up to that, to get that high attach rate, it was incredible, really.
13.5 million Wii U's, 18.5 million Mario Kart 8s.
Well, 8.4, you mean?
Yeah. So 8.46 versus 13.5. So we'll just round up to 8.5. So that's obscene.
No, exactly. That's the point, isn't it? It's really, I guess it's a weird way, it was a little bit of a kind of a leading indicator of like what it could do, on a more popular system, but it's still kind of amazing what it's gone on to do.
That's basically a 63% attach rate. 63% of Wii U's sold a copy of Mario Kart 8.
I mean, it's not that far off like Wii Sports, and Wii Sports got packed in for like years in the outside Japan. Like it's I think it might be like something maybe
it's 82.9 million copies of Wii Sports.
Yeah, and there were about over 100 million Wii's, weren't there? So it must be, in that kind of 70 to 80% range somewhere.
101 million Wii's.
Yeah, so there you go. So it's like in the 80%. So it is higher, but like that was a pack-in. Like I know there were pack-ins of, there would have been hardware bundles for Mario Kart 8 on Wii U. Yes. Of course there were. But it wasn't a launch day thing the way it was with Wii Sports and Wii, because it didn't come until, whatever it was, nearly 2 years in or something. So yeah, it's just crazy.
Let me put it to you this way. 22.49, so let's say 22.5 million software units were sold on the Nintendo 64. So that's all games everywhere. Basically 62 million copies of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe alone have been sold on Switch.
That is insane.
Like 40% of the totality of the Nintendo 64 software sales. Oh, I've seen better.
So 220 million units of software were ever sold for the N64.
Yes.
Yeah.
208 million were sold for the GameCube. The even lower target.
Yeah, but I mean, they were, as we said before, they were, I think it's only like 2/3 the install base, so they actually kind of did okay with software.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's because it was cheaper, because they did actually go to optical media. And they had, more third-party support in certain areas in certain ways that went along with that.
Yes, but it's like the idea of somebody asking, hey, why's Mario Kart 8 sales slowed down?
I mean, really, the pertinent question is, what dark magic have you used to find the people still alive on this planet that would be willing to play it, but previously had not? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, exactly. It's
people are born every day, Greg.
Yeah, and then join the people that are still playing, GTA 5 and take over the world.
Also true. I mean, it is amazing. I mean, if you ever look at the UK charts, which are generally dominated by evergreen things, not just these days that includes the Nintendo stuff very much. But, like GTA and other stuff like that. It's just like, how are there still, how do you keep finding? Obviously, look, there's so many people in the market to buy, but you just think there's a certain amount that you just can't reach, right? They're just not interested. It's never going to happen. But somehow there's still, there are some that you can get to, and they keep doing it.
I think with some of these games, it's almost become generational at this point. Like somebody sees their older brother playing GTA 5, so they just start playing GTA 5 when they're allowed to. It's crazy.
GTA 5 was my grandfather's game.
Right, exactly.
I mean, we talked about this. GTA 5 came out on PS3.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 whole systems might happen and have their entire life cycle before GTA 6 comes out.
Yeah.
God, it's amazing. Yeah, so the other question, like I said, somebody asked about Animal Crossing after the pandemic rush on that game. It's like why the sales were down. And the Nintendo execs were like, bro.
It's like, what do you want us to do next time? Summon Lavos or something to get at Spike. Animal Crossing sounds like another calamity. Like what?
It's like we've sold 40 million units. It's the second most popular game on the system. What more do you want?
And the Japanese sales are eye-watering. Like it's like 7 some odd million or so. I mean, in Japan alone, though, that is insane. I mean, it just
it's like 6% of Japan's population owns a copy of that game.
So unless it has happened already, and I'm sure it could, but that at some point someone's going to ask about like the Japan's aging population problem and how that's going to affect Nintendo's bottom line and like what Nintendo plans on doing in the future to help solve this problem or go around it.
Bringing back love hotels.
Well, I was going to say, and we did get who sent us a question about love hotels.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, like so that could be where this takes us. Basically, it was Shigmoto who wrote in, and their investor question was about like how do you plan to bring back love hotels? Basically, so this could tie into it, like Nintendo bringing back love hotels to solve the demand side of the
I am an intelligent and important investor in Nintendo Co. Limited. And as an intelligent investor, I know the best place to get my questions about investment answered is an English-speaking podcast hosted by Americans, Canadians, and a Brit. I've been pleased to see Nintendo's efforts to diversify its portfolio. But I think it's important to always look back as we simultaneously look forward. And someone who sounded very intelligent to me once said that. With that in mind, I'm sure you can anticipate my question. What are Nintendo's plans to reinvest in Japanese love hotels? Sell me on how Nintendo will incorporate its various intellectual property to accentuate the eroticism of the building, hallways, and each room. As a hotel patron, what Nintendo-themed accoutrement can I expect to utilize as part of my stay? Thank you for your time. And always remember that I am intelligent and important. Signed, Lord Not. John, did you write this?
No, I didn't write this.
So I have this, memory I'll never be able to get rid of. And it goes back to, 10 years ago when we did the Hot Takes telethon segment.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a trailer for the Hot Takes segment where I just had these guys throw hot takes. And I just edited it into a video as I increasingly chopped and screwed Greg saying the word hot takes. To the point beyond, high level reverb, play in reverse, split the audio every fifth of a second. And John ended his as the NFL Films highlight music played, swelling to a crescendo, saying that he believes Nintendo needs to bring back love hotels because the world needs more love in it. As the NFL Films highlight music, bum 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 bum.
Wow.
It's oh wow, here we go. Is that trailer is still on YouTube? It's extremely stupid.
They had a love testery type thing as well, didn't they? In the pre-video game era.
Yeah, and
they didn't they create the love tester? Weren't they the originator?
Is that what the love tester was actually based on? Though, okay, I know there's some connection there somewhere.
Yeah, I think so. I would need to recheck my books on the topic, but
they definitely had one. I'm not sure if they were the original, but yeah. I
think they might be, but maybe ask me again next week, I guess.
Rabu Testa.
I'm actually kind of strangely inspired to answer this question by Shigmoto, the very intelligent investor. How Nintendo can leverage its properties to accentuate the eroticism of the building. I mean, it's kind of obvious. They could make interactive beds that when they detect certain movements, you hear Charles Martinez's voice just going woohoo!
Not Charles anymore. Remember, we've replaced Charles.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, you hear Mario just going hee hee when it detects certain movements. Well, or of course, if you're in the Luigi suite, it could be just being I do it, or Luigi #1, that just buzzes out every time that.
I thought it'd just be Luigi scared noises. Ah!
Sure. Or I don't know. That's
maybe they'll just be as simple, keep it as sort of brief as possible. Because again, I don't want to ever say too much. I want to give the game away or anything, but just HD Rumble.
Ice cubes.
It's how many ice cubes are in the bed?
You erotically just move the one of the Joy-Con on your partner's body.
Yes, I'm using the IR sensor to map the contours of your body or whatever.
Yeah.
In front of a fridge, because we're in Top Gun now. I don't know.
The bit in Hot Shots where he's making a full English breakfast.
I'm just reminded of the high definition Ice Cube demo where he's standing on the cloud holding the Switch Joy-Con. That's the room. The room is just the cloud that he was standing on, looking very undapper in his suit with his sleeves rolled up. It feels like something's shaking in a glass. And then it's the image of him just shaking such a stupid presentation.
And next, someone milking a cow. Wink, wink.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. No.
Gums dropped two really alarming things. All right, so I believe we do believe it is Nintendo's purpose to bring joy to consumers. However, we are not particularly interested in bringing that joy due to the associated cleaning costs therein. Thank you.
All right.
That's Greg, do you have an investor question?
Well, first of all, I've got my threatened comp tier question, which is
here we go.
But in Japan and I think maybe Australia, they had this really nice looking tea set based on a Yoshi egg. Can I get one of those, please? So that's it. That's you're gonna acquiesce to my demands.
Yeah, Nintendo would, as they often do.
We strongly believe in the importance of making merchandise available that brings joy to our consumers, and we are pleased to hear that you enjoyed the Yoshi tea set. This tea set is available in Australia and Japan, and we believe it is presently available if you would like to go fly and purchase one.
We do have one in the kitchen here, but you'll have to wash it before you leave with it.
I honestly, if I got this question, I'd be like, we have one in the kitchen here. Please allow me to go get it. And then I would just slam it down on the ground in front of him. Please go fuck yourself.
Well, then
I feel like they need an edge to their answers.
The next tier up from the comp tier we've got. This is more. I think we've kind of the previous one there from Lord Not. As referred to himself. More that too. So I'm a more informed investor. I'm not going to ask a silly question like that. I want a tea set. I want tickets to the theme park or whatever. So it would be. I know as an informed investor that you can't, tell me about things that aren't announced yet. So I'm not going to ask you when the next Luigi's Mansion game is going to be announced or come out because, that's not something you're going to divulge at this time. However, I do want to ask, how quickly can we get in the vacuum cleaning business and actually construct a Poltergust 5000 or whatever they're up to now? That I feel like is the next tier up in the investor kind of totem pole.
As a general rule, we do not speak about technology we may or may not have presently under development.
I think that's enough. That's probably more than it deserves.
The better option would be he just walks out and then comes back with the vacuum. We really weren't going to talk about this today. And just sets it on the table and says nothing else.
We would like to announce a partnership with Dyson. We didn't want to get into this, but
why hasn't there been one that just looks like the? I guess. I mean, I could see up until this point, it didn't really move the number to justify that. But now after Luigi's Mansion 3, fuck it, make a branded vacuum. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's enough.
I have a question.
All right, go ahead.
As an investor. Nintendo has been more aggressive with anti-piracy efforts recently. Are there plans to add a pirate-themed ride at any of the Nintendo theme parks, or is that also not allowed? Arigatou gozaimasu.
The ride in question is not presently in development. However, there have been some drawings in which Bowser is a pirate. And at the end, he is captured by Mario and is put on trial for in a legal system and is given a $155,000 judgment against him. It is a very good dark ride, but we are not presently building it at this time. Also, a dark ride that just ends in you getting sued would be very funny. I'm sorry. That would be
That's pretty good.
Stepping out of the Nintendo executive role, that would be very funny. Yeah. I would absolutely get on that ride.
Yeah. It's like you get a summons to court at the end of the ride.
Yeah.
They just hand you they just hand you a FedEx packet. It's
it's pretty much that's what they're going to do, is it? Because the whole thing with the whole the big one where was literally Gary Bowser, right? The poor chap that they absolutely threw the book at, right? And one of the things that kind of went into that is that whole sort of scheme that was going on with they almost they were kind of hacking switches, but then it was almost a ransomware or something, right? That you kind of had to pay to be able to use it again, all this kind of stuff. A lot of the people that actually, kind of were behind that are outside of any jurisdiction that Nintendo can get to.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, short of sending Batman in to, like, get them out of China or whatever with a CIA fucking Black Ops playbook resurrected from the past, or whatever. What you got to do is, that's too fancy, right? They won't fall for that. You got to go back to basics. You got to go to the Principal Skinner. Here's your free bike. And then lock everyone inside the storage room while Superintendent Chalmers comes to inspect the school. So you identify who these people are that you can't get to, and you give them free tickets to the new expansion of Nintendo Universal. And then when they go in the new pirate ride, then it's like, guess what? We've got you at the end of the ride. You just arrest them, and it's like, oh, guess what? We don't need any extradition now, and that's it.
The worst part is that this is a real thing that happened. Like, that Skinner one is based on Operation Flagship, which was in DC, where I want to say it was Redskins tickets, and they just sent letters to like 100,
doesn't it?
Yeah. They sent letters to like 100 wanted fugitives in DC and told them they won tickets, and like an alarming number of them showed up and were arrested.
Unbelievable.
People are stupid as fuck.
So you never know if they really want to get at these people. That could be the way to do it. And then they will be forced to, for irony purposes, like, be inside a giant costume of Captain K. Rool once the DK part is well, it probably already is open, isn't it? But
no, they haven't even built it yet.
I think isn't it opening in Japan this year? But maybe in some of the other locations, it's going to be later. I forget.
Oh, maybe. I've
seen like YouTube advertisements for it, but I think it's like more a concept thing, like, you know. But I don't think it's too far away in Japan anyway. The DK part, but yeah, animatronic. Can't afford animatronics, so we've got to, you know.
Well, can't afford because you saw the numbers for Animal Crossing. Choose not to afford.
Yes, yeah, that's so we're gonna, you know, for poetic justice reasons, we're gonna find software pirates and force 4 of them to cram into the same giant Captain K. Rool costume with a K also.
I like that the only image they've released for the Donkey Kong Land is a minecart, but the minecart tracks have broken, and so it's just it's a picture of a bunch of Japanese people photoshopped into a minecart, screaming with joy as their minecart falls off the edge of the tracks. Nintendo, I'm going to go ahead and recommend you reevaluate your marketing strategy.
It's going to be a hell of a ride. That's what I'm taking.
What does the you know, a lot of the dark rides have the photo op. What's the photo of you during the court scene? Is it just like as your chair passes behind the defendant's desk?
It's pretty much the you know, the Ralph Wiggum, isn't it? And this is the moment where your heart absorbs the fact that you'll never keep the money you earn ever again because you'll be paying it to Nintendo.
Yes. God. All right, I have a real question. Actual non-fuckery here. Nintendo executives, creators, and engineers all repeatedly espouse the position that designing its own hardware is a great asset for Nintendo in creating its products. Given that the systems of a chip for the last 2 systems, and presumably the upcoming one, have largely been outsourced to, for the last system and presumably the upcoming one, has largely been outsourced to NVIDIA. How is that still the case? Not everybody all wants. We're prepared for an actual fucking question, I see.
Oh, well, I mean, again, I mean, you know what you would get in reality is just the biggest non-answer in the world that just
I know.
Asserts the fact that actually, you know, in the particular arrangement and combination of features, we create something that is truly unique in its ability to deliver smiles on people's faces. And, you know the bit by now.
I just want to see their face when they get, after somebody asks about where they can get better coats with Nintendo's logo on them get hammered with that, and they're like, fuck, Okay, serious hats time now, boys. We need to come up with a good answer.
I was just wondering for your question, James. Like, what is the actual question? Because I think I missed the.
So basically, I'm putting to the test their constant refrain that them designing their hardware.
Okay.
They always say it's a great asset, but I'm basically saying, but you didn't.
NVIDIA are the ones designing it, right?
How bespoke really was it? But what they came up with last time, and therefore by inference, we might think would be pretty indicative of what's coming next.
You would get an answer something along the lines of, "Yes, we believe that." For any large project like that, we will employ strategic partners in order to produce our hardware as we need to. But we believe that our engineers provide the special Nintendo ingredients that make
the Nintendo difference. Remember that?
The Nintendo difference that makes any hardware experience that we release very special and unique. It would be something along those lines.
The Nintendo
or it
difference.
Could be like, sure, like we've got an NVIDIA chip in there, but also, like we added an IR sensor to the Joy-Con, to the controller. So
speed holes.
It is bespoke. Yeah. Completely transforms the hardware.
Absolutely. I mean, if I could ask a question that you're never going to get even like an acceptable non-answer to, really, but it just, I guess, the most you can hope for is just how the non-answer comes out. Like, can they convey to you just something like, we can't tell you how we are going to address this concern, but we can at least, in the way we respond, suggest that, yes, we do share this. We are thinking about it. We are, kind of like, this is a priority. But, if I was an investor and I'm really worried about, how's this next console transition going to go? Because they've had periods of very strong performance before and not been able to follow it up. And one of the things that's kind of gone into that is the stumbles with communicating what that successor product is, right? It's like 3DS, Wii U, you kept the branding, but you seemingly didn't successfully communicate to the marketplace that this was actually new platform, in each case, a new platform. It had new exclusive games for it. It was not an add-on. It was not an iteration. It was a new, generation of stuff. And just how can you, sort of assure me that you're not going to fall into that trap again? And I mean, again, they wouldn't give you an actual answer because they're not going to share that, strategy with anybody until they're ready to execute it. But to me, I would at least want to hear something of like, we recognize that was a problem. We cannot fall into that trap again because it is a risk because they're so averse to just sticking a number on it or for whatever reasons that it might be, that the best way is not to simply just call it Switch 2 or whatever. But, I would want reassurance that they're not going to step in that particular cowpat again.
We are going to call it the Switch 64. Problem solved. The new Switch 64, to be specific, versus the old one. I swear to God, if they call it new Switch, I'm going to fucking lose it.
Again, that would be very risky to say of falling into that precise trap that I've mentioned, because new 3DS was not a new platform.
I know. That's why I'd have an aneurysm if they did it. But they might.
But that's the point, though, isn't it? They did similar in terms of when you take you have something like DSi that is not a new platform. But then Wii U is a new platform. You done fucked up. That's,
well, you is greater than I. I don't see the problem here.
That's where, look, again, they're never going to just say to you, oh, well, this is what it's called. So, chill out, mate. They're not going to do that. But
no, they're not going to say that.
I want to hear something that's just at least got a trace of recognition of like, we understand how important this is. We understand how we've gone wrong in the past. We've thought about this and it's going to be taken care of. Like, I would at least want
Greg,
that.
You're assuming that they actually have done that thought, that they're that
No, I'm not assuming. I would say that's what I want
It's called
to hear.
the Switch DX.
If
And you're like, what?
I'm an investor, I want to hear that. Whether I would hear it or whether it is at all true is a totally separate thing.
Yeah, I don't know. As an investor, I just kind of think that the dumber the name, the more people talk about it, right? It's almost like the complete opposite. Like, you would think, no, this should be named properly, but the more improperly it's named, it's the more people are maniacal about it on the internet, and there's actually more buzz about it.
Well, we is somewhat of a testament to that, right? You know,
Right.
that was the name that got a lot of, you know, sort of quizzical reactions and derision at the time, but that worked. But that was distinct.
Right.
Like, not the reality of it was that wasn't even that different from a GameCube. But because they called it something different, there was no question of like, is this just a GameCube with an add-on? Like, even though it kind of was, no one thought that because they didn't present it as such, you know. So it's just like that's the point. It's like, if I would be all for having a name that's, to some extent, that's like off the wall, what you can't, absolutely cannot have is a name that's like, oh, so is this like, you know, DSi? Or is this like, Xbox One S and X and, you know, where you just get that generational revision where it's got a little bit of enhancements and some, you know, nice things, but it's not really a new platform. That's got to, if you are completely against, and it really doesn't seem to be anything that's particularly in their kind of background anyway, of just like, just put the number on the end. Let's just call it Switch 2. Assuming that they're still not going to do that, there's a line to be walked, and you know, I would at least want to be reassured that they are cognizant of that fact.
No, that's actually a fair, like, I think you can word that question in a way that they can't get out of it. But you'd have to be really careful, and the investors have never shown that they have the capacity to thread that needle. Where I think the way you get after it is just like, you just say, I know you can't tell me what the name of the next system is, and therefore you can't answer specifically. But do you acknowledge y'all fucked this up last time?
Yes.
I just need you to say yes.
Yeah, and you know, I want to, and as you say it, I want to feel it. I want somebody to show, and obviously the leadership is different now. So, you know, it's on the one hand, you know, you can't necessarily be in the position of holding them, you know, directly accountable in that way for the things that went wrong before. But equally, you know, maybe they need to be reminded more of what went wrong than somebody who actually made that mistake personally. So yeah, it's a concern, you know, it really is. And of course, it's this balancing act, because it's like, well, you have sold so many Switches, you have sold so many units of software. Surely there has to be proper consideration of like, well, you don't simply throw that away in terms of the value of that branding, in terms of the value of, you know, all the online subscriptions and digital games you've sold. Are you just going to throw people like overboard on that and kind of start like, it's not as simple as just, well, don't name it something, you know, that people can misinterpret, because you've got, it's part of a bigger overall strategy of like, okay, backwards compatibility, you know, these, how portable are these accounts and all the things that you've got. And, you know, do you want to try and leverage the fact that so many people have bought Switches and bought so many games to get them to buy the new hardware? But on the other hand, if you over-leverage that, there may not be sufficient consideration given to the fact that this is something new, that this gives you experiences that you couldn't just get soldiering on with your old Switch. So I don't want to give the impression that this is just some easy thing that they just need to tick a box somewhere and it's fine, because all of it is a bigger picture that you've got to very carefully construct. But just, yeah, on that particular point, I would hope, if they're gonna, this is obviously not something that you would ever say in one of these. It's like, if you're gonna mess it up some other way, please. But
find new ways to fuck up.
Don't just call it something that could be interpreted as an iteration of the Switch rather than its successor.
All right, John. Actually, let's do an email one. I have one. Hold on. What tab was that in? I've got so many tabs open. This one. This comes from. This is part of Random Flashbang's email. He actually sends a bunch of stuff, including noting that you guys actually need to watch Meg 2 The Trench. The IMDb synopsis you read is only a tiny fraction of the complete batshit nonsense this film actually contains. I would go so far as to say if Nintendo felt like partnering with the Chinese film studios, they could very easily license out the sequel to Disaster Day of Crisis with amphibious dinosaurs. Someone might even fight a helicopter. I forgot the specifics.
I did actually watch the Meg 2 after we recorded. And he is not wrong. I was like midway through the film, and it's like, so any of the stuff that James mentioned actually happened? Like, it goes places that don't have that much to do with just a giant prehistoric shark. It's almost like you feel like there's some part of the script that's just like an unrelated movie that didn't get made.
I mean, it might be.
And they just absorbed it into that. Like, there's some strange stuff going on in there.
But the investor question is, investor hat on. Nintendo, where is my pet Yoshi and or Snorlax? Why dump all this money into complicated liability engines like theme parks when we have thousands of fossilized mosquitoes that we can turn into lovable genetic monstrosities to sell to mental health companions for college students and only children? The money is just sitting on the table waiting to be eaten, like turning apples into gold coins. I feel like if you asked Nintendo's executives this, they would call security. It's like there's like a button under the table where they're just like beep, and the men in suits come in. But I'll take a stab at it. That is a very interesting question. We believe in the importance of friendship, especially for those at a young age, and we have offered the opportunity to have companionship with products like Nintendogs Plus Cats, an important product line that we will obviously bring back at some point in the future. As for the question of cloning animals from mosquito DNA, it is not presently understood if that is a possible thing that you could do. And as for the question of Snorlax, we would direct that question to the Pokemon Company. They control the Pokemon license. They do definitely deflect on Pokemon questions. They are quite adroit at it, of being like, yeah, that's not us, bro. Take that question somewhere else. So I like the idea of them saying, if you want to ask about cloning a Snorlax, go call the Pokemon Company.
If you want to ask about cloning a Yoshi, please speak to our animatronic version of Dickie Attenborough. If you want to talk about Pokemon, fuck off.
It's true that pet Yoshi would be adorable and useful too. You know, people use electric scooters to get around, but if you had your own Yoshi that you could ride on and just power it by feeding it apples and your enemies, that would be fantastic.
I feel like it would be really expensive. I mean, we have another.
So maybe less apples and more enemies.
Well, we have a shareholder related question. It says, hello, Nintendo CEOs. The only company here that we know of that has multiple CEOs in the gaming space is Sony. When are you doing to make a game where Yoshi and Kirby eat each other at the same time? Sincerely, shareholder.
That is actually the prologue to Xenoblade 4.
Fuck! Although, if you told me we've made a good feel game and Kirby's in a whole new world, and you're like, what was it, fucking Silk now? No, he's been swallowed by Yoshi. It's Kirby's gutty yarn.
They just I was the thing, they kind of cancel each other out, and the kind of cosmic destruction fallout just creates a whole new universe, and that's a place in which Xenoblade things can happen.
Kirby's Sinewy Intestines is the name of this game.
Like Kirby in the meat dimension, and it's just innards everywhere.
Dimension. Fuck. I hate that phrase. I hate that. It's going to be the name of the episode, so that's good. Oh, I hate that phrase so much.
So I've got an investor question.
Yeah, go for it, investor.
So Nintendo has released this year to, moderate sales and success, Princess Peach Showtime. But Nintendo also has a wide roster of male characters in its Mario franchise, and the roster is not as wide for the female characters. So where are my weird twisted mirror versions of Peach? Where is the smelly and gross Beach? And where is her chaotic cousin Deech? Thank you.
We do not believe that creating a Wario-like character for Peach will bring smiles to consumers' faces at this time. Also, this
time, but
Miyamoto, it's always at this time.
Exactly.
Miyamoto would also have like a 7-paragraph. This would be one of the handful of questions he would feel compelled to answer, and he would have like a 7-paragraph answer.
There was like a giant lady in Resident Evil 8 that brought joy to consumers. So like,
we are not interested in those consumers.
There was that thing a while back where an artist shared as like something they did on, I think it was going to be for the GameCube, Mario Power Tennis, that had a Wall Peach in it. That was kind of, I can't remember exactly how to describe it now, but it was basically that concept of, sort of bizarro Peach. So they've got close. I mean, they didn't follow through. And of course, that was, how Waluigi came to be, was for a tennis game. So if it had happened, I mean, it might not have been isolated to that game, because Waluigi is still with us today.
Yeah, he escaped containment.
Yeah, I think it's a cautionary tale. That might be when Miyamoto's 9-paragraph answer might start with a cautionary tale about letting Camelot make Waluigi. Back in 1996, we made a huge mistake. We agreed to let Camelot Software to make Waluigi. We have not been able to kill him since. We have been trying. Lord, have we been trying. But every time I turn around, someone has made a new Mario Party and put him in it. Or he's in Smash Brothers, and I am calling Mr. Sakurai and yelling at him for 13 minutes. It's exactly 13 minutes every time. Tezuka's just nodding. He does do this, yes. I've watched him do it many times. We have not been able to remove because I don't think there's anything clearer than Nintendo does not care for Waluigi.
We wasn't in Mario Kart 7, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like quite an omission. That is kind of pointed, I've got to say.
He was in DS because he had a whole the pinball stage, but you couldn't play online because it's the pinball stage. But yeah, Nintendo, not a fan, but they can't get rid of him either. So this might be the one where when you read it, it's just an entire page of Miyamoto talking. Peach would definitely upset him. It would be.
No. Flip the Peach, it becomes Beach, lowercase b, and then flip that the other way, and that's Deech. There's no reason to go wide anything.
But no, that's how you know they're bad. That's how you know they're bad, Guillaume.
Yeah, that's why it's Waluigi and the Wario thing in the first place, right? Warigi isn't bad in Japanese, right?
And so they're just like, fuck it, we'll just flip the M. But then they're like, what do we do with Luigi? We'll just put Wa in front of Luigi. That doesn't work. Who cares? Just do it. Waluigi is like this weirdly low effort character that we just can't get rid of. I think that might be the biggest reason. He's just so low effort. The only thing he does in his first game is he goes, "Take that, Mr. Eyeballs," in the opening trailer. That's it. That's his raison d'etre is drawing eyes on characters' posters. It's a very simple life. We've lost the order, so I'll just drop one. I gave y'all a serious one and I gave y'all a stupid one. You can figure out what this one is on your own. With the upcoming opening of Super Nintendo World in Orlando in the United States, and the future construction of a park in Singapore, and the addition of new territory to Super Nintendo World in Tokyo, the number of Super Nintendo locations will reach 4. The other 2, in Los Angeles in the United States, and the aforementioned Tokyo location, are already open and experiencing expansions. All of these locations are very hot in the summer, and I do not enjoy sweating. What plans do you have to open a Super Nintendo World in a more temperate climate so that I can visit it and not be uncomfortable? this is also
I've got
a
bad
potential-
news about the climate for this person. No place is safe. Canada is apparently warming up faster than other countries, so so we're not safe here either.
I envisioned this man standing in Universal Studios Los Angeles is super small compared to every other Universal Studios. Like, it's tiny. Because it really is their studio lot, and they just had some space and put some parks on it. I just imagined him standing in the middle of like a Los Angeles blacktop parking lot in a full suit, sweltering and muttering to himself about having to go see Mario this way. Like, I just had this whole vision of him in my head wearing a black suit in the middle of like Los Angeles in August. And Los Angeles doesn't even get that hot unless it's on fire compared to like just over the mountains, because it gets the breeze from the ocean, but it's not temperate. Singapore
maybe no place on Earth is safe from the heat, and so look forward to our Super Nintendo World 1-2 locations that will be located entirely underground.
Yes,
perfect. I'm down for that. I'm on board. Sold.
And when the whole Earth is just uninhabitable, asteroid N.
Just a restart. I became aware of the Singapore Super Nintendo Land because of the investor briefing this time. Like, I'd probably heard it, but it slipped my mind. It's gonna be fucking miserable there in the summer. Like, I don't know what you're dealing with right now with heat. You're dealing with the fucking inside the Tropic of Cancer. It's gonna be hot as shit.
It is.
It's gonna be. Yeah. It's gonna be so humid.
It'll be miserable. Miserable.
Abject misery.
And I mean, the thing is, the lines are going to be so long there, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the lines are long in LA, for crying out loud. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I'm guessing that's why they're going to have, their attractions are going to be, the rides are going to be, and like the decor is going to be based on Super Mario Sunshine, and it's going to have like these giant clouds that just blow wind on you. Like they're gonna have these giant fans, and as you're waiting for your ride, for your turn in line, like you're gonna also have to fight to keep your balance with these giant industrial fans that are powerful enough to just knock you off your feet.
That was also the obvious answer to the thing about the love hotels, where they just make it like the Hotel Delfino. It's like, well, if you go in the attic, it's kind of like Pac-Man. That's sensual.
Oh.
Sure. Yes.
There's thirsty ghosts everywhere.
Actually, you know what? Singapore isn't. It's hot. It's hot. It's very humid, obviously, because I mean it's an island. But basically, it's 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 30 degrees Celsius all year long. Just every fucking day. Have fun. I guess when you're that close to the equator, that's what you get. Oh, good. And their wet season is, quote, throughout the year. Have fun.
It could be any time. Anytime, a monsoon, who knows what's happening.
Have fun with that. That weather's gonna suck. I mean, at least LA can be kind of nice in the spring, except for the fact it's LA. But,
yeah, I mean, it can be nice at times. Like, during the winter and stuff, it's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, but I don't want to go to Universal Studios in Florida in August.
No, like that'd be miserable. It's gonna be 95 degrees with 100% humidity. Like, forget it. Like, it would just be insane.
I'm sweating and it's 11 p.m. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's like midnight and it's still 85 degrees outside.
Guess what? At 3 a.m. you'll still be sweating.
Yeah.
So a way to solve that, and also to solve, I'm assuming that it must suck to open a theme park in any country with all the regulations and everything. What about international waters? Just release Super Nintendo World the water levels.
What if you just build a bunch of oil derricks, and around the oil mining you also put rides?
You could actually recreate the island from Super Mario
might
World.
be something that you could fit in after FIFA staged the World Cup there.
That's true.
Right.
That's right. If there's oil to be found, FIFA will stage the World Cup here.
Yeah, and then after that, it's like, well, what else can we do with this monstrosity that's in the middle of the ocean? Well, let's convert it into a theme park.
Yep.
I do have one rule of the road there for that. Don't let Conan Bowl run your FIFA in the water, because it'll just be overcome with riots. Oh my god.
To be fair, I don't think they were quite prepared for that many people in that Miami stadium, because it's usually the Dolphins, isn't it? So it's just like, well.
Hey, they've hosted Super Bowls. Why? This is a complete aside. Why was the South American Confederation hosting their tournament in the United States?
It's not the first time, actually. It's happened before.
I know, it's the second.
And also, the US took part, Canada took part and did rather well, actually. Canada were finished fourth. And, I would imagine it's preparation for the 26 World Cup, basically. These venues are all the venues, I believe, that were used in that Copa America are going to be, heavily relied upon for the World Cup, which is going to be way more games, because it'd be a 48 team tournament versus that.
Right.
Copa America is 16 teams. Hitherto, World Cups have been 32. I think it's just kind of putting some of these venues through their paces. In terms of, obviously, look, they're huge capacities, state-of-the-art new facilities in a lot of cases, like the Vegas one, SoFi in LA, all that kind of stuff. But, I don't know, in terms of hosting these particular kinds of events, there's probably some, particular issues, playing surface, they're getting people in and out in that particular way. It's a little bit different. So I assume they saw some value in it in that way. More so than is usually be the case, for instance, when I think a lot of the time when a place is warming up for a World Cup, it would have hosted what they call the Confederations Cup, where they kind of have just a handful of teams from the individual confederations but that really would have been a bit kind of beneath the scale of what you're looking at, because it's not just the US, it's going to be Canada and Mexico involved hosting that World Cup as well. I'm quite looking forward to it, because in 94, when I was excited about the idea of a World Cup being played in all these stadiums, I knew from, watching the NFL, England didn't qualify, so I didn't get to see England play in any of those places. So hopefully they will for 26.
Apparently they ran security for this one, whereas in 2016 the actual CONCACAF ran security for them, and that might be the problem. Issue identified. Don't cheap out on your security. That's my advice to you if you are opening your theme park in international waters where they can't get to you. Also, if you're injured in a theme park in international waters, what court can you sue in?
At the same time, it would solve that previous questions about where are the pirates?
They just wait to waylay all the people trying to get out.
We're building it in the Red Sea, so they're right there.
Also, it kind of reframes the perception of the design of that DK ride. I mean, maybe it really is that dangerous.
Yeah, maybe.
Here's the answer to what legal jurisdiction is. Quote, maritime law is complex. Great. This sounds perfect for my low liability stakes theme park. Oh, see, now we've got it. Now we've got it. Just set this thing up out in the international waters. You're gonna sue me? You can't sue me. What are you gonna do? Take me to a court that doesn't have jurisdiction?
That does kind of sound like a water park name. Welcome to international waters. Sounds like a terrible water park from New Jersey or something like that.
No, it sounds like a water park from outside Las Vegas.
Right.
God. All right. Wait, questions. Let's question. Do we have questions? Who's got a question?
I got one more here.
All righty.
I am a big fan of the Virtual Boy. Now that VR hardware is incredibly popular and doing well in the markets, will we see a new Virtual Boy using the latest VR hardware?
Oh.
I think if anything is going to get them to just say, I reject the premise of your question, sir, it might be that.
And I won't respond to it.
That might actually be the... No. Next question.
Yeah,
No,
it would be something like, we believe that VR hardware is very interesting, but we are trying to determine how it could help the experiences of our customers. We will continue to investigate it, and if anything changes in regards to our stance on VR hardware, we will let you know.
This was basically...
Also, I'm just here because I won't get fined.
Right.
Somebody basically asked them about using AI, and that was pretty much their answer. Is like, we believe that the Nintendo craft is the most important factor in our success. We evaluate, but we're not planning to adopt AI at this time. But like, they didn't even say that. Like, they basically said nothing.
Yeah, well, they'll say something like, pretty much like, that is interesting.
Yeah, like they basically said like, there is that it's an evolving field, and that a lot of people are using it. And they were asked it in the context of like, do you plan to use it? And the answer was basically, Again,
they don't want to shed any light on those sorts of things, do they? That's not an area where they're going to get into that, with the public through the investors. But of course, it's just a case of giving a non-answer, in such a way again that you don't want to seem extremely dismissive of kind of like, you wouldn't say, look, we're not going to answer that. Why did you ask it? So it's just one of those kind of trying to be a sort of polite, putting the issue down without actually saying much of anything at all. But then sometimes that is like kind of vague enough that people read things into it that may or may not be there.
And that was the case here. So the person literally just said, efforts are underway to equip smartphones with AI, and it is expected that AI will become more prominent. I'd like to hear about Nintendo's initiatives using AI. And Furukawa, I can see him pinching the bridge of his nose with his eyes closed, thinking, oh God. Notes that, in the game industry, AI-like technology has long been used, for example, to control the movements of opponent characters. All right. Generative AI, which is becoming a big topic recently, can be used in I like when he throws in he does this more than anybody, these like secondary freight clauses in the sentence to make it sound like you're a very special boy for asking that question. Generative AI,
exactly.
Which is becoming a big topic recently, can be used in creative ways, but we recognize that it may also raise issues with intellectual property rights. We have decades of know-how in creating the best gaming for our players, and we are open to utilizing technological developments. We will continue delivering value that is unique to Nintendo and cannot be created by technology alone. Now, that was his answer. Did anywhere in that question he say, no, we're not going to use generative AI? Absolutely not. Were there articles and forum posts and like social media posts like Nintendo rejects AI? Oh God, yes. Were those all categorically wrong? Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely positively wrong. But he answered it in such, this one is actually masterful. He deflects he doesn't even answer the question. He just notes that AI is a thing and that Nintendo has looked at it and somehow managed to get the most politically beautiful, interpretation in people's minds. Oh no, we're not going to do that because we're craftsmen.
And I mean, they probably haven't even seriously looked at it either.
No, they've definitely looked at it.
Oh, well, I mean, they could have, but what does that mean? They could say, oh, hey, go do something. Have fun.
Sure, no.
Take a week.
I'm sure someone has created a prototype of something that uses Gen AI as a gameplay construct. But, it doesn't mean they're going to do it. But, the pressing point here is that, he basically just, so he says, we believe in the crafting experiences that only we can create. Also, we're going to continue to explore technology. As if, like, one has any bearing at all on the other. They're completely disconnected thoughts, but he put them next to each other to create a false dichotomy by effectively saying, no, we're not going to use AI. But without, like, he led the audience to the water here, but he actually didn't put any water there. Like, he's just like, yeah, if they think there's water here, they'll drink it. It's kind of masterful in this one, because he doesn't say a goddamn thing, but he managed to get, like, a news cycle where people hung on his words that he didn't say. It's very un-Nintendo to do that right. I think the answer you would get. I think what you would get is a recitation of. I'll just go for it. The Virtual Boy, which we released in, I think it was 94, 1990. They'd have the answer. 1994 was an experiment that we carried out based on the technology that was available at the time. And although we believe that it produced a number of products that brought smile to consumers' faces, it was not the commercial success that we were hoping for. At present time, we are not exploring any kind of similar project, although we are constantly evaluating technology that comes on the market, including VR, such as our recently released Labo VR, which is still presently available. There you go.
It brought smiles to customers, but also eyesight problems to 6-year-olds and less.
That's right. Don't be 6 and look at this screen. There's no scientific bearing for that statement. Don't be 6 and look at this screen.
They could also say, like, a few years ago we leveraged the nostalgia people have for these older experiences with the release of the NES and SNES classics, and we didn't do one for Game Boy. So, do you think we're going to do Virtual Boy, motherfucker?
I'm going to ask again, though, but can we get one? If you release one, can I have it?
A miniature headset. You can't even put your face in.
I mean, remember
we finally found something more silly than those tiny Game Gears.
I was just about to mention those. Remember, they released the Sega Big Window for the tiny Game Gear too.
But it hurts my fingers and thumbs when I hold it and try to play it. Yeah, no, but you've got a big window. You can almost see it now.
God, that is an excellent RFN episode of us just trying to make sense of the unintelligible. I got a GX investor question. GX International Investor writes, Dear Nintendo Investor Relations Proxies, while the company has many outlets to buy or subscribe to a library of classic games from Nintendo history, that library remains underutilized. When will Nintendo Publishing continue the 3D Classics lines of classic games previously established on the 3DS system? So I feel like this one, they're just gonna... No, we're gonna go with we're always exploring the potential to bring back our history in ways that engage and excite consumers and bring joy. The 3D Classics on the Nintendo 3DS was a product of its time in which we were able to present new dimensionality to games that fans have loved for decades. As we move to Switch, we've adopted a new approach to bringing smiles to our consumers by presenting games as part of a subscription service. You can the Nintendo Online Expansion Pack offer to a expansive library of at least 15 games that are available right now, with new game being added every few months. We encourage you to explore the offerings that we have in that space at this time, and if future opportunities arrive to present these games in new and exciting ways, we will continue to pursue those options. They would absolutely fucking pivot to trying to sell you expansion pack, and it's disgusting.
Yep.
Also, I like the idea of them calling the 3D Classics new and exciting.
They could actually tell the truth instead of lying through their teeth and actually say that our goal whenever we come up with a way to release old games on our systems is purported goal is to bring classics to the people who want them, but our actual goal is just to find a new way to foist Urban Champion on people. We did that. We achieved that with a 3D Classics line, and we now have achieved that with the NSO. Our objectives are complete, and please, look forward to the Switch successor, where you will have again the opportunity to not purchase Urban Champion.
Look down at your hands. They're empty. Now look up. Now look back down. You're holding a copy of Urban Champion. How did that happen? Congratulations. This is a new copy of Urban Champion on a Famicom cart. That's not actually a Famicom cart. Turn it over. It's a screen. What can you play on it? Why, Urban Champion. You're playing it now. Are you having fun? Of course not. It's Urban Champion, but you're stuck playing it. Just like some fucked up mind game shit.
Yeah, go home. Where's your family? I don't know, but what's there? A copy of Urban Champion. Where's your family gone? Who knows?
They're playing Urban Champion right now in your basement. But you don't have a basement. You do now. It's the Urban Champion basement. It's full of Urban Champion arcade machines. Can they leave? No. Not until they beat Urban Champion. It's just like, sir, please. My family is very tired. And we don't like Urban Champion. No one does. That's the point. For those of you who are unaware of the joke, we got an email at one point where what game did we determine? Oh, we read it on the show, didn't we? Where it was like, yeah, this guy basically is like,
I feel like we explained this joke like just last week.
Yeah, when it got added to the NSO area.
We've only got one other one from the emails. Does anybody else have any investment queries that they want answered?
Right now I'm just picturing like a more Ray Bradbury take on your whole scenario there, and like maybe you can save your family if you can avoid these flower pots and the cops who are now after you.
Walk outside. It's real Urban Champion now. Flower pots are falling. What do? You got to get home to your family.
You see this man across the street, you have to fight him. Just like you. He's got an explosive implanted in his neck. Only one of you can walk away.
It's turning into the Horace Show Pony article I wrote. Is your family to the east? That's a shame. This city only goes north to south. Figure it out. It's like, oh God. See them across the street? You can't cross it. Keep walking. Let's see. I'm going to say, let's do, I'm trying to, asks a number of investor style questions.
Oh yeah.
My boss was scared when you showed off a piece of video entertainment software starring a man with a paper bag on his head. How will Nintendo assure families that Nintendo is suitable to everyone? Nintendo offers a wide variety of products targeting different audiences. This is the first M-rated game developed by Nintendo internal studio in Japan. And we believe that Sakamoto is currently a very good developer and is definitely not going to release the photographs that definitely don't exist. Right? Right, Mr. Sakamoto? We're still good, right? Yeah? Okay. Thank you. You can go back to your office now. We'll check in with you later. Just, we're all looking forward to playing your game.
Perhaps, the Spiling Man game is part of, an aborted attempt to branch out of the Labo, experiment. And this game comes with a set of paper bags that you can, festive paper bags that you can put on your family's heads while you're playing the game, so that you don't have to scare them, and at the same time that they enhance your appreciation of the game that you're playing.
I've seen pictures on a retail listing for the special edition of this new Famicom Detective Club game in Japan, where it's got like a soundtrack and an art book and something that looks like it may just be a paper bag with the smiley face.
Yes!
Nice.
You're not too far off.
Sakamoto did say he wanted to create new rumors, so there you go.
Yeah.
This is by far the most inexplicable product Nintendo has released.
I
in a
gotta
long
say,
time.
it was a shock, wasn't it? If you have that teaser of, the whole thing with the paper bag, and you kind of think, oh, okay, it was a little bit different. Seems like pretty sort of orthodox kind of attempt to market like this kind of content in general, like in terms of like, it's like some scary urban legend or whatever, some scary viral video, like it's what. But the fact that Nintendo was doing it was like, this is not the kind of thing they really do themselves, or a lot of the time. But of all the things for it to be was a Famicom Detective Club follow-up, it's really quite a surprise. It's got to be said, because as far as I think anybody could tell, the remakes that came out before did not perform especially well commercially, and just like the way they kind of seemed a bit half-hearted, like the way they sold them, especially like in Europe, where they didn't do what they did in the US, where it's like, if you bought one, you could buy one separately, and then it kind of entitled you to a kind of discount on the remaining game, which is something they also did, I think, with the Bayonetta games. They didn't even do that in Europe. It's just like, no, that's the two of them. It adds up to like a full price game that you can get on a voucher, and they have never discounted it, not once. So,
which is a shame, because it's good.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I mean, as far as I could tell, and obviously you talked about them, James, and stuff, like it seemed like they did a pretty good job with those games, with those remakes, bringing those Famicom Disk System games up to date. But the idea that they would actually be able to do another one just seemed a bit fanciful, based on, some of the way they handled it and what you could tell about the sales figures and all that. And then it seems, if anything, this is getting more of a kind of full-on treatment. I think there is going to be a physical version in Europe this time, for instance.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're going all out on this. And again, this goes back to my statement that Mr. Sakamoto definitely is not going to release those images, correct? Thank you, sir.
Obviously that's something that's been said of, I feel like we brought this up a few times in recent months or whatever, your Kawazu at Square Enix, with the Saga stuff, just the value of somebody still being in the building, whether they have incriminating materials or not, is seemingly, quite something, because, it's not the most obvious, kind of thing in the world. But it's nice to see, I gotta say, it's more than, I don't know what exactly I was expecting to come out of that teaser, but it wasn't this.
No.
Yeah. Well, it was a mistake to call him or call it Emio in the first place. Like you put a mysterious teaser and a character with a short name that ends in O. I just think like Emio, just like Gabbo in the Simpsons. It's automatic.
This is just a fucking weird product. I think is the only real word come up with. But gave us more questions.
No, there's some good deadpan ones in amongst these.
These chairs are uncomfortable. When will Nintendo increase the quality of seating at these events? We have actually had a question not a million miles away from this one, where I want to say it was, did they ask about like the food at the event? I want to say it was something weird.
It was something like
these
that.
used to have used to have better refreshments or some shit like that. It was like, sir, you had all this time, and you're getting to ask Nintendo a question at point blank range that they can't not answer. They can evade, but they have to at least give you an answer. And you're like,
I had a different question, but now my ass hurts. So I'm asking this question.
And they're like, the food before this meeting wasn't very good. Why? And it's like, sir, eat before you get here. What the fuck?
It's getting pretty late. We should just read them and not answer them.
I find the Switch cartridges in case too small and difficult to hold manipulate. What will Nintendo do for their future hardware to facilitate people with properly sized handles?
2 words, big window.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a magnifying glass. It doesn't actually make the cartridges any bigger.
And Xbox sensors, butt cheeks, of course.
Yep.
That's why it's the Switch Butt Cheeks edition is the next system, yes. It's much more ergonomic. Why does Nintendo not make games that look like they used to look back in the 1980s? They were a big success then, and were the majority of the market then. It is time for Nintendo to acknowledge their past was successful. I unfortunately regret to inform you that in the late 90s, we have tapped out all the mines in Japan for pixels, and there are no more pixels left in the country. We are forced instead to use polygons, which we understand are a unpleasant replacement, but are more economically available without causing as much environmental damage.
If Nintendo went all out with the release of Emu the Smiling Man, they would release a demake of that Famicom Detective
That's
game
right.
along with it. So
yeah, make the NES, make the Satellaview version that never existed of MEO. Yes, I agree. That's important.
It wouldn't shock me if they actually did that for the music.
No, I wouldn't be shocked either, to be honest. I have tried to fax Nintendo my ideas several times this year, and the fax was not connected. Has Nintendo abandoned all its traditional working methods?
Well, once they moved on to PictoChat, there was not really any turning back, you know.
I like the idea of AG, frantically trying to get, punch the number in to get the fax off to Nintendo headquarters, and instead actually accidentally reaching the desk of Vladimir Putin, who has multiple fax machines connected and wants the world to know it.
So he can get faxes from the front line saying, everything is fine here. Send more tanks from the 50s. I do want to actually answer this one with a slightly serious but also completely fucking insane piece of news. Japan had a law that effectively required backing up government digital assets on physical media. So in Japan, floppy disks were still a thing until that law got changed. So like the government wasn't having to back up everything on fucking floppies anymore. There were 1,034 regulations that mandated their use. That law ended January 1st, 2024. So, that's neat. It was floppy disk CD-ROMs, and you had to send physical media to the Japanese government to submit, quote, 1,900 different forms, such as business filing and submission forms for citizens. Jesus Christ. However, on the issue of fax machines, Japan is still the number one market for the sale of fax machines, because they are often required for use in government or business interaction.
Hey, you laugh, but, if you're doing something like a serious thing like a COVID inquiry, at least they're not going to be able to say, oh no, I'm afraid, my WhatsApps have gone away because my phone got butter on it or whatever, and, I could cover up what a completely incompetent shitbag I was while people's lives were at stake.
Mm-hmm. Apparently there was a plan to start removing fax machines from government offices, but in 2021, the bureaucrats won and the fax machines stayed. I can't. Japan, please. Japan and I'm begging you, break your fax machine. Just do it. Just take it outside and just hit it with a crowbar. They're misery. All you get are spam for, cruises on them. And yeah, spam on fax machines are real. I used to sit next to one. It's like, hey, you can win a free cruise. Respond to this fax. And I'm like, that's less convincing than Nigerian prince emails. Last question from... Oh, shoot. I just said... I was supposed to say AG. Oh, well. Last question from AG. Nintendo has expanded its IP notoriety with increased merchandise and live businesses such as the Kirby Cafe. When will the shareholders be granted complimentary access? You're going to need to speak to Hal. They operate the Kirby Cafes as our strategic partner. We are not able to give you reservations to the current Kirby Cafe, which is available at Tokyo Skytree. I can't fathom asking for access to the Kirby Cafe, but I think that's very funny.
Well, it is kind of an amalgam of the comps question and the quality of the catering questions that have actually happened. So,
Catering is bad. All right. Well, that's enough us being investors and or businessmen for one day. Email, send them, rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. And we did get to talk a little bit about the Famicom Detective Club, so that's good. We have a plug this week as well, Guillaume.
That's right, yeah. Last week I was invited to be on the Stone Age Gamer podcast. They do this thing, I think, every few months where they have this trivia game. It was a lot of fun. It was just a whole lot of questions about Nintendo stuff for the most part. And it was more casual than I thought it would be. It's not one of those trivia quizzes where they don't want you to get the answer. In fact, they were very, very lenient to the point where I was like, well, I feel like I haven't earned this. But it was a lot of fun. Be warned that they've got potty mouths over there.
We would never.
Yeah, but it might be even worse over there. So, just be warned. Yeah.
Cool.
It was a ton of fun. Like, Chris, who was hosting, is basically a long-time listener. So, their format is kind of based on RFN. So,
which we definitely created ourselves. And
oh yeah, we came up with this whole format of four guys talking about video games. That's for sure.
With a segment called Listener Mail and a segment called New Business.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we'll be asking for the royalties, I suppose.
Recompense is required.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, what is our music to conclude the show this week?
Well, it comes from AG's email there. It contained also a request for a song to go along with the reveal of the new Famicom Detective Club game, which is the title theme from The Missing Heir on Switch. That was kind of did that announcement, I think, did gloss over the fact that there was a remake on the Super Famicom of The Girl Who Stands Behind, but there was also a Satellaview game that was like original, but they very much sort of, no, this is the first one in however many decades, like let's kind of gloss over that a little bit.
Because that one's not really much of a game.
No, well, I mean, with these Satellaview things, I mean, I think it would have had to be, broadcast in parts and all that kind of thing. It's only so big it could be, and goodness knows how many people actually played it. It's probably vanishingly small number.
It's basically a visual novel. It's basically like you just read. So I actually had the same thought of like, what if they did that one? But there's almost no gameplay apparently. So I get it. But I would like to see it, but it stars the, I can't remember what the girl's name is.
Yeah, because I think they did specifically note, like, oh, you can play as her in this for the first time. And it's like, well, yeah, it was
sort of.
Yeah, but again, there was a sort of line of these sorts of experiences where I guess it did fit the format that they had, the limits of that broadcast satellite format that they had with Satellaview, like, because, Radical Dreamers, right? That was, kind of another similar kind of experience that was on there that was kind of a forerunner to Chrono Cross and all that. But yeah, we've used a couple of things from Famicom Detective Club before, including, I believe, the title theme for the Super Famicom version of Girl Who Stands Behind, and
because it slaps. And
you had an ending theme, I think, from that as well, from the Switch version. Yeah. But yeah, I think this is the first time we've used something from The Missing Heir, which was based on the first Famicom Detective Club game.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, on that, it is time for us to go. Bye, everybody.
Later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.